source whence suffering springs. Having known acquisition or attachment as a tie in the world, a person should train for its removal. Then Mara, the evil one, realizing the Blessed One knows me, the Fortunate One knows me, sad and disappointed, disappeared right there. So here the Buddha one day was thinking, is it possible for a king to rule according to Dhamma without hurting others? And then Mara came to tempt him, asked him, why don't you become a king? Then he also said, you have developed psychic power. If you want, the whole Himalaya mountains can turn into solid gold. And the Buddha said, even two Himalaya mountains made of solid gold is not sufficient if you are not contented, if you have desire and greed. So that's why the Buddha said a person should remove attachment, remove sensual desire. And he left. Actually, in the Bible, Jesus also was tempted by the Mara, because Jesus was meditating in the desert 40 days and 40 nights. He did not take food, so he was meditating, and so Mara was afraid that he was near to enlightenment and brought him up the hills, brought him up the mountains, and asked him to become a king. So Jesus also refused the temptation. So it's a little bit similar to this sutta. 4.22. On one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling among the Sakyans at Silavati. Now on that occasion, the Venerable Samyutta was dwelling not far from the Blessed One, diligent, ardent and resolute. Then while the Venerable Samyutta was alone in seclusion, a reflection arose in his mind thus: it is indeed a gain for me, it is well gained by me that my teacher is the Arahant, Sammasambuddha. It is indeed a gain for me, it is well gained by me that I have gone forth in this well expounded Dhammavuddho. It is indeed a gain for me, it is well gained by me that my companions in the holy life are virtuous, of good character. Stop here for a moment. So here we see the Venerable Samyutta. He realized that he was so lucky to have such a good teacher, Sammasambuddha for his teacher, and his the Dhammavuddho of the Buddha is so good, and the Sangha, the companions in the holy life, are so virtuous. So he was very, very happy. Then Mara, the evil one, having known with his own mind the reflection in the mind of the Venerable Samyutta, approached him, and not far from him made a loud noise, frightful and terrifying, as though the earth was splitting open. Then the Venerable Samyutta approached the Blessed One, paid homage to him, sat down to one side and reported what had happened. The Blessed One said, "That was not the earth splitting open, Samyutta. That was Mara, the evil one, who had come in order to confound you. Go back, Samyutta, and dwell diligent, ardent and resolute." One moment. Maybe this Venerable Samyutta was not yet an Arahant, but he was practicing very hard to become enlightened. So maybe Mara came to disturb him, frighten him to stop his practice. "Yes, Venerable Sir," the Venerable Samyutta replied. Then he rose from his seat, paid homage to the Blessed One, and departed, keeping him on the right. A second time, while the Venerable Samyutta was alone in seclusion, a reflection arose in his mind that he was, as mentioned before, he had this thought, "It is indeed a gain for me, it is well gained by me that my teacher is the Arahant Sammasambuddha. It is indeed a gain for me, it is well gained by me that I have gone forth in this well-expounded Dhammavuddho. It is indeed a gain for me, it is well gained by me that my companions in the holy life are virtuous of good character." So here he's is thinking, he was praising the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. And the second time, the evil one came and made a loud noise, frightful and terrifying, as though the earth was splitting open. Then the Venerable Samyutta, having understood this is Mara, the evil one, addressed him in verse: I have gone forth out of faith from the home to the homeless life. My mindfulness and wisdom are mature, and my mind well concentrated. Conjure up whatever forms you wish, but you will never make me tremble. Then Mara, the evil one, realizing the monk Samyutta knows me, sad and disappointed, disappeared right there. That's the end of the sutta. So here it might be also that Venerable Samyutta was already an Arahant, not so sure. Because here he says his mindfulness and wisdom are mature, his mind well concentrated. Next sutta, 4.23. On one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling at Rajagaha in the bamboo grove, the squirrel sanctuary. Now on that occasion, the Venerable Godika was dwelling on the black slope on the east, on the black rock on the Isigili slope. Then while the Venerable Godika was dwelling diligent, ardent and resolute, he reached temporary liberation of mind, but he fell away from that temporary liberation of mind. A second time, while the Venerable Godika was dwelling diligent, ardent and resolute, he reached temporary liberation of mind, but he fell away from that temporary liberation of mind. And the third time, and the fourth time, and the fifth time, and the sixth time, while the Venerable Godika was dwelling diligent, ardent and resolute, he reached temporary liberation of mind, but he fell away from that temporary liberation of mind. A seventh time, while the Venerable Godika was dwelling diligent, ardent and resolute, he reached temporary liberation of mind. Then it occurred to the Venerable Godika, 6 times already I have fallen away from temporary liberation of mind. Let me use the knife. Then Mara, the evil one, having known with his own mind the reflection in the Venerable Godika's mind, approached the Blessed One and addressed him with these verses: O great hero, great in wisdom, blazing forth with power and glory, I worship your feet, one with vision, who has overcome all enmity and fear. O great hero who has vanquished death, your disciple is longing for death. He intends to take his own life. Restrain him from this, O luminous one. How, O Blessed One, can your disciple, one delighting in the teaching, a trainee seeking his mind's ideal, take his own life, O widely famed? Now on that occasion, the Venerable Godika had just used the knife. Then the Blessed One, having understood this is Mara, the evil one, addressed him in verse: Such indeed is how the steadfast act. They are not attached to life. Having drawn out craving with its root, Godika has attained final Nibbana. I'll stop here for a moment. So here, this Venerable Godika, he was practicing very diligently. And it's mentioned here that 6 times he tried to attain temporary liberation of mind. He attained it for a short while, but fell out of that state. 6 times he fell out of that state. The 7th time, I think he attained that state. So after that, he decided to commit suicide. And Mara came to tell the Buddha to stop him. But the Buddha did not stop him. So after that, Venerable Godika committed suicide. This temporary liberation of mind, according to the commentaries, refers to the mundane jhanas, some states of concentration. He attained states of concentration but fell out of it. But for him to commit suicide, and the Buddha did not restrain him, I feel that probably he had already attained arahanthood. So if he had already attained arahanthood, then it could be that the temporary liberation of mind is the cessation of perception and feeling. The cessation of perception and feeling also means the cessation of consciousness, a state of parinibbana, when an arahant passes away. He enters that state where all the consciousness ceases, the 6 consciousness. So because probably his body was sick, he was not well, he could attain it for a while, but because he was not strong, he fell out of the state. So there are a few instances of this in the Suttas and the Vinaya, where sometimes a monk is very sick and he decides to commit suicide, and the Buddha knows that he is an Arahant. The Buddha does not restrain him from committing suicide because he has finished his work. And as the Buddha says here, that they are not attached to life. Such indeed is how the steadfast act. They are not attached to life. Then the Blessed One addressed the monks thus: "Come, monks, let us go to the black rock on the Isigili slope, where the clansman Godika has used the knife." "Yes, Venerable Sir," those monks replied. Then the Blessed One, together with a number of monks, went to the black rock on the Isigili slope. The Blessed One saw in the distance the Venerable Godika lying on the bed with his shoulder turned. But on that occasion, a cloud of smoke, a swirl of darkness, was moving to the east, then to the west, to the north, to the south, upwards, downwards, and to the intermediate quarters. The Blessed One then addressed the monks thus: "Do you see, monks, that cloud of smoke, that swirl of darkness, moving to the east, then to the west, to the north, to the south, upwards, downwards, and to the intermediate quarters?" "Yes, Venerable Sir," they replied. "That, monks, is Mara, the evil one, searching for the consciousness of the clansman Godika, wondering, where now has the consciousness of the clansman Godika been established? However, monks, with consciousness unestablished, the clansman Godika has attained final Nibbana." Then Mara, the evil one, taking a lute of yellow vilva wood, approached the Blessed One and addressed him in verse: "Above, below, and across, in the four quarters and in between, I have been searching but do not find where Godika has gone." And the Buddha said, "That steadfast man was resolute, a meditator always rejoicing in meditation, applying himself day and night, without attachment even to life, having conquered the army of death, not returning to renewed existence, having drawn out craving with its root, Godika has attained final Nibbana." So much was he stricken with sorrow that his lute dropped from his armpit. Thereupon that disappointed spirit disappeared right on the spot. So here you see, after this Venerable Godika passed away, Mara was looking for his consciousness where he was reborn. He was going all over the place, but the Buddha said Mara cannot find his consciousness because his consciousness is unestablished, is no more established in anywhere, in any body. That is the state of an Arahant. After he passes away, the consciousness, the sixth consciousness stops. It's unlike the Mahayana Sutras, which says that the Arahant have not finished their work. They still have to come back. No such thing. In the earlier Suttas, the Buddha and the Arahant disciples, all when they pass away, their consciousness, sixth consciousness ceases. They enter Nibbana. So this is interesting sutta where a monk commits suicide. But the Buddha says there is no fault. If a monk commits suicide, provided he has finished his work. If he has finished his work, then the Buddha, sometimes the Buddha says, even before he commits suicide, the Buddha tells him, whatever you want to do, don't worry, it's blameless. But on the other hand, if a person has not attained enlightenment, has not finished his work, then the Buddha says that even if you are very sick, even you have a lot of pain, bear it, because human life is very hard to get. So human life is the only realm of rebirth where we can practice hard to get out of samsara. So even if we are very sick, we should hold on to life because if we have life, then we still have time to practice to end